There is a kind of poverty that doesn't just empty your pockets. It empties your name. It convinces you slowly that you were born to serve other people's dreams and never your own. This is the story of a young woman who scrubbed floors for people who looked right through her, who was thrown out of houses for crimes she never committed, who was betrayed by the one person she trusted most, and who never once knew that the very hands she used to sweep a church floor were about to open the door to the life she had been praying for all along. Her name was Erica. And before you judge how long she stayed silent, how many times she forgave, how patiently she endured, ask yourself something. What would you do if the only family you had left made you feel like a burden every single day? Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you'll understand exactly why she never gave up, even when giving up would have been so much easier. Erica grew up in a small town outside Lagos, in a house where love came with conditions. Her mother, worn down by years of struggle and the absence of a husband who was no longer there to help carry the weight, had one measure for a daughter's worth: money. Not affection. Not effort. Not even survival. Money. Every week brought the same conversation. Erica's childhood friend, a girl named Mary, had moved to Lagos years earlier and sent envelopes home stuffed with cash. Nobody in that house asked how a girl with no education and no connections was suddenly sending home more money than a bank teller made in a month. They simply compared. And in that comparison, Erica always lost. "Your mate Mary is in Lagos making money and you're here sleeping," her mother would say, as if sleep were a luxury Erica could actually afford. Erica would rise before dawn, walk for hours between offices that never called back, and return home to the same accusation: that she was lazy, that she was ungrateful, that she was failing a family that had given her nothing but blame. When Erica fell ill from exhaustion and hunger, her mother didn't reach for comfort. She reached for a phone number. A call to Mary, a favor requested, and just like that, Erica was packed onto a bus to Lagos with a single instruction ringing in her ears: don't come back empty-handed. The city hit her like a wave the moment she stepped off that bus. Horns, heat, a million strangers moving with a purpose she didn't yet understand. Somewhere beneath the noise, she felt something stir, not quite hope, but its distant cousin: possibility. Mary's house was the first shock. Marble floors. Gold fixtures. A kind of wealth Erica had only seen in magazines. "Wait till you see how we live here," Mary said, wrapping an arm around her old friend as if nothing had changed between them. But something had changed, and Erica felt it before she understood it. The compliments from men who came and went at strange hours. The way Mary waved off certain questions with a laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. The perfume of money that clung to every room, without a single explanation of where it came from. Erica asked. Mary deflected. And when the truth finally surfaced, that her old friend's fortune came from a life Erica refused to live, something inside her hardened into a quiet, unshakable decision. She would find honest work even if it meant scrubbing floors for strangers. Even if it meant disappointing everyone who expected her to take the easy road. That decision cost her more than she ever imagined. The first job interview ended before it began. No degree, no chance. The second came with a warning about tardiness so sharp it left her hands shaking. But she took the job anyway. A cleaner's position, modest pay, dignity intact. When she called home to share the news, her mother's response cut deeper than any rejection letter. "I sent you to Lagos to clean people's houses? Mary is sending millions and you're telling me about a mop." Erica swallowed the words. She always did. The next house should have been a blessing. A beautiful home on Banana Island, the kind of address that made people go quiet with respect. She worked hard, arrived early, left everything gleaming. But the danger in that house had nothing to do with dust and everything to do with the homeowner's son, a man who mistook her silence for invitation and her discomfort for a game. When she finally shouted at him to stop, it was Erica who was accused of causing trouble. It was Erica who was thrown out into the street with no pay and no apology, called ungrateful by a woman who never once asked her own son a single question. The pattern repeated at the next house too. A husband who noticed her a little too closely, gifts she refused, and a wife whose jealousy needed somewhere to land. It landed on Erica. 2 households, 2 dismissals, 2 accusations that had nothing to do with what actually happened and everything to do with a young woman being an easy target for other people's guilt. By the time she found herself sitting alone in a quiet public park, staring at the water, Erica had run out of tears. She wasn't crying from sadness anymore. She was crying from sheer exhaustion, the kind that settles into your bones after months of trying and failing and trying again. That's when an elderly woman sat down beside her. She didn't ask what was wrong right away. She simply sat, the way people used to sit with each other before everyone got so busy. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the kind of warmth that made strangers feel like family. "Your eyes tell a different story than your smile," she said gently. And something about the honesty of that observation cracked Erica open. They talked for over an hour. About struggle, about dignity, about the strength it takes to keep showing up when nobody's clapping for you. Before the woman left, she pressed money into Erica's hands, 500,000 naira, insisting it wasn't charity but an answer to a prayer Erica hadn't even finished praying. She handed over a business card too, along with a simple instruction: "Call me. I'll be traveling soon, so don't wait too long." Erica walked home that evening feeling, for the first time in months, like the universe hadn't forgotten her name. She should have kept that card in her own two hands. Instead, in a moment of pure, uncomplicated joy, she told Mary everything. It's a strange thing watching someone's face change when they realize they've just found a shortcut to a life they didn't earn. Mary's smile stayed exactly the same. Her eyes told a different story. Within days, she had convinced Erica to hand over 300,000 naira as rent, leaving barely enough for Erica to send a fraction of it home, a fraction her mother still called an insult. And then, quietly, without a single word of warning, the business card disappeared. Erica searched everywhere. She blamed her own carelessness, apologized to a woman who wasn't even there to hear it, prayed for forgiveness for a mistake she never actually made. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the card was sitting in Mary's palm, and Mary was already dialing the number, rehearsing a voice that wasn't hers, preparing to steal a blessing that was never meant for her. On the other end of that call was a young man named David, kind, grounded, the grandson of the very woman who had shown Erica such unexpected mercy in the park. His grandmother had left instructions before flying overseas: if a young woman named Erica calls, treat her like family. She had a feeling about this one. Grandmothers usually do. Mary answered to that name like she'd been born with it. What followed was a slow, careful theft, not just of money but of an entire life. Mary met David under Erica's name, borrowed her story, wore her humility like a costume that didn't quite fit. And every time the seams started to show, an account number that didn't match, a nervous stumble over her own family history, a strange demand that the real Erica hand over her identity for 2 full months in exchange for a place to sleep, David felt something tug at his instincts. Something his own grandmother had taught him never to ignore. Never build a conclusion on assumptions. Wait until you see the truth for yourself. Meanwhile, the real Erica had reached her breaking point. Mary's strange ultimatum, "Answer to my name, live as me," was the final proof that the sister she thought she knew had become someone else entirely. She refused. And when she refused, the door to that beautiful borrowed home closed behind her for good. With nowhere left to turn, Erica found her way to the last place anyone expects a miracle to begin: a small notice pinned outside a church asking for a cleaner. No glamour in that job. No promises of quick money. Just quiet, steady work in a place built on faith. She took it without hesitation. There was something different about sweeping those floors. The morning light through stained glass. The stillness before the congregation arrived. For the first time since she'd landed in Lagos, Erica felt something close to peace, even while her family back home continued to measure her worth in naira and find her lacking. It was in a park, the same kind of quiet, unremarkable place where kindness had once found her before, that Erica's path crossed with David's a second time, though neither of them fully understood it yet. He recognized something in her that he couldn't explain, a pull he hadn't felt with the woman calling herself Erica back in the city. She recognized in him a gentleness she hadn't experienced from a man in longer than she could remember. Neither of them said the full truth. Not yet. But truth has a way of surfacing, especially when it's been buried under someone else's lies for too long. David began noticing the cracks. The stories that didn't line up. The accounts that led back to a woman named Mary instead of Erica. The unmistakable difference between a person performing humility and a person who had actually lived it. And somewhere in that unraveling, he found himself standing face to face with the real Erica, a woman with tired hands and an unbroken spirit, a woman who had been mocked for cleaning church floors while her impostor sipped champagne under a stolen name. She was, without knowing it, already exactly where destiny had been steering her all along. What Erica never understood, in all those months of apologizing for things that weren't her fault, is that the people who tried to erase her only proved how much she was worth stealing. You don't disguise yourself as someone ordinary. You disguise yourself as someone whose life is about to change. If there's one thing this story asks of you, it's this: don't measure your worth by the envelopes other people send home. Don't let anyone convince you that your quiet, honest effort means less than someone else's shortcuts. The floor you're sweeping today might be the very place where your miracle finds you tomorrow. Erica never stopped believing that, even when she had every reason to stop. If this story moved you even a little, let us know in the comments. We read every single one. Share it with someone who needs to hear that patience is never wasted. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. And until our next story, keep believing that your breakthrough is closer than it looks.